Hey guys, welcome back to Knickknack Reads. I'm obviously going to be doing my September wrap-up video. I don't like this height. This height is too tall for me. Just hold on. That's kind of better if I stand here. Okay, back to the video. So I was talking about a book, the first book I read in this month, and that book is Queen of Shadows by Sarah J Maas. So this is the fourth book in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J Maas, which I absolutely adore. I love this series. I love Selena. I think she's probably one of my favourite characters ever in a book series. You know, she is this really kick-ass, strong, independent female character in a world that's very dominated by men, and I love that. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I loved it so much. I thought it was so good. My only complaint is that my ship kind of died in its ass. I was kind of upset with that in Heir of Fire, but in Queen of Shadows I kind of felt like we were going through the process with Selena of like letting that relationship go. And I don't know, I really kind of think I'm shipping who she's getting with now. I'm not going to say it. It was intense, and I love how you went from thinking that this one particular individual is the villain, and then you find out that they're not really the central villain. They're just somebody working underneath the villain. It's a bit of a mindfuck, this book. My jaw was dropped for most of it. My mind was going, what the hell is happening? And I couldn't put this book down. I really quite enjoyed the chapters with the Iron Teeth witches. I thought it was quite interesting, and Queen of Shadows is all starting to come together and weave together, and absolutely loved how it ended. It's awesome to see that she's kind of finally taking charge of who she is and her birthright. I thought this book was just brilliant. So after reading Queen of Shadows, I really wanted to keep reading her books. I kind of didn't want to get off the Sarah J Maas train, and I read the other 4 books she had out. So that just left me with A Court of Thorns and Roses. Now this was a book that when it first came out I kind of was not interested in reading. I love fairy tales, so I had to get it, and I'm glad I did. Now with this book I did go in with the expectation that it was going to be really good. This book, in my opinion, is not the same as Throne of Glass in my enjoyment of reading it. But in saying that, this is only the first book in the series, and I was comparing it to how I felt after reading the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, where her writing style and the story has developed and there's more going on. I did struggle a little bit with this book at first, because I struggled to kind of connect with the main character, Fairy. But I did really like it. I loved the fairy elements. Their entire world and what was going on, and how there was this curse and no one could talk about it, was so cool. However, I did think it was absurd, completely absurd, that everybody blamed her for not breaking the curse. She didn't know! I don't get how it was her fault, but she didn't know about the curse and what she needed to do to break it. It was interesting, it's intriguing, I loved how it ended, I thought it was so good. I'm intrigued to see what happens in the rest of this series, and I'm really confused as to what happened at the end between Fairy and Rysand. I don't get why he looked at that way. A lot of people have hinted that like they're each other's soulmates, which I'm not okay with, because we just went through this entire book of her getting Tamlin and just admitting that she was in love with him. You can't go and change that on me in the next book. I'm not going to be okay with that. You've already killed my ship in Throne of Glass. It's rude to kill it in this book too. So the next book I read was The Vincent Brothers by Abby Glines. Now this book sounded really good. It was basically about Ashton, Bo and Sawyer. Now Bo and Sawyer are 2 boys and they're cousins, and Ashton is their friend, and basically Bo's been in love with her since they were little kids, and then she ends up dating Sawyer. And this is basically about Sawyer going away for a summer, and then Bo and Ashton get close together and kind of fall in love. I don't know how to like express my feelings on this book. It's not that I didn't like it, and it's not that I did like it. I expected it to be better. I think the thing that frustrated me the most was the writing style itself. I feel like if I was 17 years old, the same age as the characters, I would have loved this book. As a 22-year-old woman, I can't help but think, get over it, be honest, suck it up, and deal with it, sweetheart. A lot of things happened and I was rolling my eyes and I put the book down because I just didn't want to read it because it was just childish at times, I guess you could say. It was okay. It wasn't as good as I was hoping it would be. I think if I was 17 I would have loved it, and I'm not 17, so I didn't really love it. So obviously, because I read the Vincent Boys, I picked up the Vincent Brothers. I spent about 6 months actually from the Vincent Boys, and this is about Sawyer and his story and what happens after his girlfriend leaves him for his cousin. This story was pathetic. Bo has always been made out to be the bad boy and Sawyer's been the good boy. He went from being this kind of nice boring character in the Vincent Boys to this book where he got more pathetic. He basically dates Ashton's cousin to get her jealous, but Ashton's cousin Lana is actually in love with him. He basically just uses her to get Ashton jealous, but in the process falls in love with her while still wanting to get back with Ashton, but then realizing, oh, I don't actually want to be with Ashton, I actually want to be with Lana, and screwing up that relationship. I struggled with this book. I did not like it at times because of his personality. Honestly, I couldn't wait till I got to the end of the book because I just wanted to put it down and finish it because I couldn't read it anymore. The next 2 books I read are in a series, and the first book is Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. This was a really intriguing book. If you've read it, then you obviously know what happens to the main character, Sky, and Holder, and that background story between the two of them, which is intense and not what I was expecting when I picked it up. But basically this is about 17-year-old Sky who's living with her adoptive mother, and she meets this guy called Dean Holder, who only goes by Holder, and basically his twin sister has committed suicide a year ago, and when he was a child he had a best friend. Her name was Hope, and she got stolen as a child from her dad. Basically you work out within like 2 seconds flat that Sky is Hope, and it's so brilliantly well written. You know, I definitely think that Hopeless is up there with Ugly Love for me. The feels. Obviously I read Hopeless, so that meant I had to read Losing Hope by Colleen Hoover as well. So basically Losing Hope is Holder's perspective. This is his story. You find out what happened with his sister, his reaction to finding her dead, and what happened afterwards, but why he went to his dad and why he came back to live with his mum. And you also get to watch him fall in love with her and kind of struggle with the fact that he knows she's Hope, but he doesn't want her to be Hope. He wants her to be Sky. It's so beautiful, it's so well done, and I adored it. So the last book I read this month, I literally like snuck in and finished it on the 30th of September. And that book is Breathe by Abby Glines. So this book is basically about 17-year-old Sadie, Jack Stone, who is a 19-year-old teen heartthrob musician, and he's got his home and Sadie's basically hired help, and he basically falls in love with her and she falls in love with him. My one big gripe with this book is there is insta-love. He's only there for a summer, and it was like 3 weeks in when they decided to date, and they were like, I love you, and I'm like, no, you don't. Okay, it's not a thing. It's not realistic for like 90% of the population. No. I can honestly say I did quite like it. Yeah. I had some moments where I sat there and I was like, I have to put this book down. But it is one of those books that's kind of okay, it's alright, but you have to keep reading because you're somehow addicted to it. It's like those crappy reality TV shows you watch, but you don't really know why. I feel like this is sort of this book. I liked it enough that I was looking at buying the next 7 books in the series this morning. I didn't realise like how interwoven the characters are, because when I was reading the blurbs of the books I was like, I don't know who any of these characters are. And then I picked up the blurb to Because of Low, and I was like, oh, Marcus, I know him. He was in Breathe. I didn't like him very much in Breathe. So now I have to read a book about him. So I don't know how I'm going to go with that, but I will of course update you. So that is my September wrap-up video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you read any of these books, please comment down below and let me know what you think of them. Anyway, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!